thing pops up, it should. Hello and welcome to Tavern Talks. I'm your wonderful host, James. We have our co-host, Matt, here. And tonight we have an interesting and very exciting guest. Kevin Fannin is the creator of Banners of Honor, a brand new 5e supplement book / Kickstarter that's going to be launching very soon. So he gave us the opportunity to kind of get a sneak peek about the back end of things, and we're going to grill him and ask all these interesting questions and try to find out exactly what this thing's all about before it launches, and hopefully giving you guys a preparation for something exciting coming out. So Kevin, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
So my name's Kevin Fannin. I go by Kefa on all social media. It's a real clever combination of the first two letters of my first name and the first two letters of my last name, just to create some interesting studio name years ago, and I've just been running with it ever since. I'm a professional miniature painter, been doing that for many years. I've also done some freelance editing and writing, which led me to some of the connections I made in the Dungeons and Dragons community. I've been editing for Mana Project Studios and Nightfell RPG, both Italian companies. And through those connections, I've met all of the wonderful artists that worked on Banners of Honor. And been working really hard on my own campaign book.
Awesome. And how long have you been writing this thing?
We've been writing for about 6 months, but the project started almost 9 months ago.
Okay, awesome. So one thing I like to ask all of my guests is 3 questions. And Matt always jokes with me on this one because I rattle them off, and I'm going to try to give one at a time this time. There you go. So the first one is when did you get into tabletop gaming?
I started in tabletop gaming, let's see, at a very early age. My oldest stepbrother had a copy of Hero Quest, and he wouldn't let us play it, but I was super fascinated with it, you know? And then years later, a kid at school had one of those little free 2-page images inside of Warhammer Fantasy, a river and a bridge, and I had just watched Braveheart for the first time. So I was like super into the mass, medieval battles. And then when you add the fantasy element of Warhammer, I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life, and immediately latched on to tabletop gaming in the form of Warhammer Fantasy. Played that for many, many, many years, and I actually never played my first role-playing game until early 5th edition.
Oh, wow. Well, that answers my second question, because my second question was when did you actually get into D&D?
So, yeah. A little bit about that. So growing up, when I was a real little kid, my dad always played Dungeons and Dragons. We're not close, and we really never have been my whole entire life. So for 30 years or so, I was like, that's his stuff. I don't want anything to do with, And then when I finally tried it, I was like, I can't believe I let him keep me from trying this for 30 years, Right. So I had a little bit of a reluctance, to play role-playing games. And then once I finally did, it was like a missing piece of my puzzle.
Awesome.
No, James, I'm going to start calling this show Warhammer. James invites D&D nerds, and to find out they're Warhammer nerds live on stream, because I think the last 4 guests we've have been big Warhammer guys, and James I don't know.
Yeah, which is great to have Matt here, because Matt's a huge Warhammer fan, and it allows them to talk that way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe Dungeons and Dragons sprung out of wargaming originally, so they were just trying to find interesting ways to use their wargaming miniatures. So
yeah, and thank God for those early wargaming companies, or we wouldn't have the miniature industry like we do today, because so many of those early minis were just for Warhammer or some of the old realistic combat games, historical reenactment games. It's just those kind of companies kept the miniature people alive, that were starting to make D&D minis, and it's a good thing that they were.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I have always dreamed of having my own, my own miniatures, that were all sprung from my imagination. I can't sculpt very well. I paint, pretty okay, but right here in front of me, I have 6 miniatures that I helped create, and it standing on the shoulders of giants, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's amazing.
That is awesome. One of the things I know Matt has had the opportunity to do it. So just kind of a background of us, we both work with a company called GUI Cube out of Colorado. And one of the opportunities we have gotten is in between writing for them is to be having placed a portrait in their world. And what that has done is allowed us then to be a part of the world in a way that is very unique, because they don't just say, hey, what character do you want to play? You have to actually provide a portrait, and then yourself is actually placed into the world. Well, Matt has had that step even higher now when one of our wonderful friends, Harry, who is a sculptor and artist in his own mind, which is incredible what he does. Yes. He actually has taken most of these portraits and made them into full-blown miniatures. So he has a portrait of himself and a miniature of himself.
And I'm actually in one of the new short adventures that GUI Cube is coming out with. I'm going to be a NPC in that. So that's pretty sick when you're a big D&D nerd, is that,
Yeah.
I
had no idea.
Not only that, but I've gotten to I got the opportunity because of some people taking a chance on somebody who'd never written before. I got to write an entire country for GUI Cube and a race. I actually wrote the lizard men, the Estenasans, in their home country, and that was so cool. It's just, I can't believe it.
So yeah, I was unaware of your connection with GUI Cube, but Alphinius has always been very kind and supportive of Keffa Studios and Banners of Honor. Every Monday, he allows people to promote on his social medias, to his audience, and he's always the first one to comment about how cool the artwork is, or just such a warm and friendly guy. And I strive to be like those people that set great examples for what the gaming community should be.
I completely agree.
I was actually going to say, he just ordered a bunch of minis from the 3D printing company that I have. We're printing stuff for him, and the minis that he orders look a lot like your art style. He really so he's being genuine. He really likes that art style of like slightly cartoony, but still pretty realistic. And you get some really cool looking characters, like some of the stuff in the little bit of a sample that we got to see of your stuff, and it's pretty cool.
No, it really is. It's very the samples we have actually. If you would, if we want to, let's pull those up. I know we've got some images of them. Let's show off those things.
Sure. Yeah.
I need to get on our Twitch so I can see which ones you're showing.
Yeah, I need to bring up the Twitch channel too, I think.
It's not artwork, it's the miniatures that are in there. You should see multiple miniatures in the box.
Yeah, there's a group photo. Uh-oh. Yeah,
So while that's happening, so we've, like you said, we work a lot with them. It's how this stream actually fully developed. It was a pipe dream of mine coming back from a long-term deployment overseas with a bunch of guys. When I hit the ground running, and about 70% of them decided to just dip off. And then I ran into GUI Cube and started speaking with Matt and some others, and really found this passion behind writing D&D and building adventures. And then I developed my own professional gaming business. And then we've kind of taken that even farther now in building professional streamed games. And I never would have expected it. And we've been playing just a little over a year and a half. So
yeah, I've done a few live stream games myself, and I know how much work they are, and I know how much dedication it takes to put that all together. So congrats on toughing it out for a year. That's a lot.
It's a bit. We're actually really excited. We've got some new projects in the plan that are going to bring our gaming channel even more developed with custom artwork, custom maps. Everything is getting full-blown overhaul, and we're super excited about it. I can't say too much because otherwise Matt and the rest of my team will smack me. This is what happens every time.
He's bad about keeping secrets.
I am. I'm the cat. I'm a really bad cat.
You said there was a couple of points that about my background and how I got into gaming that I didn't quite touch on, and I think that are important to where I'm at now.
Sure.
So when I was a little kid, other than knowing that my dad did Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, I was really unaware of the rules or how role-playing games worked. But I was absolutely obsessed with some early Final Fantasy games, especially on Super Nintendo. It was Final Fantasy 3/6, right?
Oh yeah.
And as a kid, I would break out my notebooks and I would try to handwrite my own strategy guide to this game, like where every treasure was, where how to beat every boss. From just instead of doing my classwork in school, this is what I'm doing. And
I did that. I did that probably with Pokemon. I was like, okay, where's the Pokemon I gotta get to next?
Sure. And I would try to create Final Fantasy as a role playing game without knowing what it was. To me, it was a board game, right? Like, oh yeah, where you get attacks and special moves and fight monsters and get experience points. I had no idea that I was at a very early age, maybe 10 years old, trying to create role-playing games, and with literally no knowledge of, what was already out there or what was going on in the world. Which is something that's I've always been drawn to.
Oh no, completely 100%. I know I've told this story many times of my coming up in role-playing. Is I actually didn't start into role-playing until I was in high school with actual D&D. Mm-hmm. What I started with was a small web community, and some people know this thing, and it was really just a little Java-based game community called Neopets. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
My wife was obsessed with Neopets for a while.
They had adventures groups in there, or guilds, or I don't know what they called them exactly, but you could just do what you wanted in those. And the first thing I saw was one that was writing about Dragon Riders of Pern, which was a book I was interested in at the time. I'm a huge dragon nerd. You'll find that out because the portrait was done with dragons. Everything is dragons for me. It's just how this was. And the character I had developed in it has now been a staple in my entire childhood, growing up, and everything with tabletop role playing. And it all started by doing consistent. The best way to put them is writing forums where you're just, you'd write this paragraph and then you'd wait, and then the next person will write the next part of the story, and the next person will write the next part of the story. And I think it's 5e is so important to me and so much more developed than past versions, is because I didn't understand that there was such a storytelling development to it. 3rd edition I just played, 4th edition I never got into, and then 5th edition, once it opened up, I was like, oh wow, no, I can take those things I used to enjoy when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, and now I have a system that I can build into it, and it works, and it's fantastic. So I can see you guys in the same boat.
You guys are a little bit luckier than me. I didn't see the inside of a game shop or a D&D table until I was probably 20, because I lived out in the middle of, we were on 46 acres of our own land. We had cows growing up in deep, dark East Texas. So that just wasn't available. As a matter of fact, I read when I was in junior high, I read Fellowship of the Rings for the first time and was obsessed. But our library didn't have the rest of them. We didn't have Two Towers or Return of the King. So I had to wait till I got to high school to read those because they just weren't in our library. And so instead I filled my mind with junk like Pierce Anthony. If you've ever read any of the Chronicles of Xanth or any of that stuff, which is probably why I play D&D a lot the way that I do now, where everything is based on puns and stupidity. But as a kid, 14, 15-year-old kid, it was a crazy world where the entire high fantasy magic system was based on just puns, and it was really great. But it is wild how so many of the go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I saw for a moment on my other monitor the miniature art was up. I don't know if you guys wanted to talk about that, but it's disappeared on us. So
we can get that back up.
The one thing I was going to talk about is I did recognize the I think he was all the way on the left. The guy, he's in the very last page of the sample you sent us with the wooden club. I love the artwork so much.
Actually, Lana, the one with the sword, also is on the next to last page.
Oh, you're right. I didn't recognize it not in color.
Both of those characters are very important to some brand new mechanics that we're trying out, and it's very much an experiment for this project. We're gonna try it. We're gonna give it everything we have, and we're gonna take feedback from the fans and tweak it and see how we can develop this moving forward. But it's called Decisions of Destiny, and it's a mechanic that I would like to incorporate in all of our projects moving forward, where seemingly unsuspecting NPCs can play significant roles in the story, for better or for worse, depending on player choices and the way that the characters are treated, the way that players respond to actions that the NPCs take. So we're trying to give the illusion, right, that it's a living, breathing world, and give the dungeon master some guidance on how to, role play these NPCs to their fullest potential. So those two miniatures on the I'm pointing off screen, but it's on my other monitor. The two on the far left, those are the two experimental characters that we're doing this with. And then our blacksmith, she's very central to the story of reforging the sword of the king. So she's going to be important. And then we have a couple of boss monsters that we thought were essential to get on the tabletop and try to kill your friends with. And
they're all great sculpts, by the way. I don't know who did your modeling, but they're those are very nice.
Thank you very much. The sculptor goes by Clute, and that's Epic Adventure Miniatures. They've done a couple of really successful Kickstarters, and as you can see, he's talented beyond words. I give him, some reference pictures and some ideas, and the stuff that he does is just mind-blowing, and I couldn't be happier with him. So.
And I say that with a little bit of experience from printing so many miniatures that are just really crap sculpts because the people don't understand the manufacturing of them, and they're not cut well, and these are incredibly well done.
Yeah, I put the link in our chat room for anybody who's interested in checking them out.
Oh yeah, sweet.
These are
and
top of the line, incredible.
Posture check from Metalhead Minis. Hey, my con mom's in the chat, and she says we have to do a posture check for 100. So
we can do it.
All right.
But where were we? Oh yeah, so there was a huge learning curve for me. I've never obviously had miniatures of my own or designed miniatures, etc. So once we discussed what we wanted them to look like and the scale, etc., and then we did test prints, and I was like, oh, this is bad. What I thought I wanted and what looks good rendered digitally is not necessarily what I want to put my paintbrushes on.
Yep.
So I.
No.
Oh no, did we lose him? Hope not.
We lost him for a second. He'll probably pop back in a minute.
He will be back. I promise, guys. We still have a lot to talk about too, because there's a lot of stuff that they have in there. Oh no, we lost him completely.
I'm back.
Oh, he's back.
Oh, look at that.
Oh wow, your camera quality got significantly better.
What just happened? Everything just got better.
Way better.
Wow. So I don't know what was the last thing you guys heard.
You were talking about how the minis that you wanted, that you thought you wanted, and the digital renderings were different than what you put your paintbrush on.
Yes. So I'm a huge fan of both Loot Studios and Artisan Guild. I think it's Artisan Guild minis on the STL side on 3D printing.
Yeah.
Like I showed you the dwarf I'm painting for competition right now. That's a Loot model, and those are among the best 75 millimeter models I've ever seen. The sculpts are fantastic. However, when you print them at gaming scale, they're a little too fragile. The details are a little too tight, and I'm not a huge fan of painting them, right? They look beautiful, but painting them can be a real chore.
Right.
On the other side, the Artisan Guild miniatures, while their proportions are a little more cartoony and not as realistic looking, they're not quite as serious looking, miniatures, but they are way more fun to paint. Like, I mean, they're just more forgiving. They have more surface area to allow artistic expression. So for gaming models, I'm much more a fan of that particular scale. So that's what we've modeled our scale after, was the Artisan Guild minis.
And that's actually when we were talking about Alphinius's minis that he liked earlier. Those are the people who manufacture the minis that he bought STL for, because they're a little bit more cartoony, but they're still like, it gives them more personality. It's just enough to give them some personality, but still look feasible.
Right.
And they're just so much more comfortable to paint, especially as I get older and my eyes get worse. So,
the character I wanted to ask you about that I saw, and I was hoping that I would see him here. I immediately fell in love with Chandler Stanton, I think was his name. Because I love anything to do with a cult leader in D&D, because you can do a lot with them. I really like taking characters like that and setting him up to be this big bad guy, and then you find out that, oh, surprise, he was actually like either a secret agent who was trying to infiltrate and find members of this cult, or he's actually doing good things, or like, I really like characters like him. I like the way that he looks, because he seems a little bit nondescript, but at the same time, he's got little flashes of personality.
Who are we speaking about specifically?
Chandler Sullivan.
Not Stanton.
Yeah.
Sullivan.
I was like, Stanton. I kept looking. I was like, I
was thinking of
Stanton
one of our good friends. His name is Lord Stanton. That's a Twitch handle. But yeah, he is. I instantly fell in love with that artwork.
He was an early alternative for the Decisions of Destiny playset. He was one that I wanted, and as things, as we wrote and developed more of the story, we found that Belden and Lana were the better choices for that. But I still love that character. I love the artwork. And what's really interesting about the factions in this story, there's no clear-cut good guys or bad guys.
Which I was reading that. I thought that was really cool.
The players can absolutely take sides, right? And if they do decide to take a side in this conflict, their side will appear to be the good guys, and the other side will appear to be, hostile to them. So you could very much have Chandler be the villain that he kind of looks like, honestly, or he can just be one of those, support characters that is a little rough around the edges. But we're trying to leave as much. So like I said, I've been doing a lot of editing, of other people's writing and stuff, and not to nitpick or to disparage anybody's work, but my biggest pet peeve when in any third party, sometimes you see it in the official stuff, but mostly the third party works. Anytime combats or encounters or anything is railroaded, where they're like, oh, you're going to encounter this, and this is how it's going to resolve, no matter what the players do. I absolutely cannot stand that. And I've done everything in my power to make sure that even random encounters in this adventure are somewhat optional, right? So even if it's hard, even if it's very difficult, if you have all of the pieces of the puzzle, you'll realize there's always a way to avoid combat. There's always a way to circumvent dangerous situations. And it's very important to me that I always write that into the encounters, so that players don't feel trapped or railroaded.
I think that's an interesting thing you're doing in the actual writing. I know a lot of times, like when I'm playing games or I'm running games for modules or for GUI Cube and stuff like that, a lot of those times those questions have to be done on the fly as the game master, as the situation presents itself. Mm-hmm. But to write it in the actual module itself, in the actual book, that's impressive. And that's probably has a lot more depth to it than even we can take time. We don't have enough time in an hour-long show to do it. But that would be an
I have
interesting
to
conversation.
I have to definitely make hard decisions about what to include and what not to include, what to, leave to the dungeon master to sort out for himself, and what I should, give him. There's certain areas where I want to give them all the tools to play with, and there's other areas where I have to trust the dungeon masters that are reading the book to infer certain things and use their own imagination. And
exactly.
It's like I kind of want to write the adventure and help prep it,
Yeah.
And I have to at some point I have to go, okay, I wrote X amount of words for this chapter, and it has to stay close to that if I'm going to fit it in the 350 pages we have planned for this book. So
yeah, and it's hard to self-edit because, a lot of times you're like, oh, there's this big hole in the middle of town when you're writing it, and you're like, oh, I know what's down there, and this is what I think is there. But sometimes you just have to be like, it's a big hole and nobody knows what's down there.
Yeah.
And let your DM decide what's down there.
Yeah, exactly.
Give them some room. As Alfinia says, give them some room to dance. Let the GM have some fun. But it's hard. That's a really hard skill as a writer, especially is what you intend the world to be like, and then just backing your opinion out of it and making it more open world.
One thing that I try to keep in perspective for myself is that most of, like 99% of all the people who buy my book, if they're anything like me and all of my friends, they're going to buy it. They're going to be super excited for it. They're going to flip through it, and they're going to put it on their shelf, and maybe they'll never play it or open it again. And I know that's just the way it goes with, when there's so many products on the market to buy, etc. But I would love to see.
Yeah,
I would love to see interpretations
of
the story.
I know that's one thing I kind of want to do in the long run with Tabletop Misfits is taking a lot of these adventures that people are putting their heart and soul into, and finding game masters or finding myself time to run these things and putting that professional spin to them, that production spin to them that we're trying to portray. I think these are just ways to show off that and give that homage back to those people that have written like that. I mean, I know I'm writing for GUI Cube, and I'm writing an adventure right now. And one of the things I'm going to be doing in the next couple of weeks is trying to figure out those steps, those extra edit bits and whatnot. I think
it's one thing to get fans to support you and buy your book and enjoy your artwork, etc. But to actually spend a year with the story that I've written and run their friends through it and embellish it themselves, like that would mean even more to me than, obviously we need money to stay in business, etc. But to know that people were actually enjoying the game and playing the game, that would mean the world to me.
Yeah, that's a nerve-wracking thing for myself because I've got to make sure mine's ready for Gen Con this year.
But to bring it back to like the artwork here with this guy that's on screen now, that artwork to me immediately, there's like two different directions you can go with this guy. Is this guy like a wealthy merchant who's trying to help the people? Maybe he's discovered some kind of plot and he's trying to use his wealth because he's got kind of a cool man of the people hat on there, almost like a sailor's cap. Or is he a corrupt official who's using his position to get? There's so many ways you can go with that, and it's interesting to have that option built in, to have a really basic sketch of this guy.
Yeah, he definitely, this is our mayor of Danbridge. This is Edvin Reed, and he definitely has those warm, friendly eyes and a very friendly persona. But to me, something about like all the jewelry on the fingers gives him a little bit of a sleazy look.
It's a little too much, yeah.
Yeah, and I
feel like, go ahead.
Go ahead. I said I really try to strike that balance with all of our character concepts, unless there are certain NPCs, like we have a goofy fisherman who I definitely want you to know that he's a goofy fisherman, right? But for a lot of these characters, I'm trying to strike that balance to always keep the players wondering, do I trust this person? Is he a spy? Is he on our side? Is he, a neutral party? And I think the artwork is just as powerful as anything that I can put into words.
Yeah, because I feel like if this dude had 2 less rings on, I would be totally on his team. I feel like just like 1 or 2 less rings, and I'd be like, all right, you're fine. But that is a lot of rings.
Uh-huh.
But no, that's and it's hard to do that kind of thing. And I got to be honest too. I really was looking at the map of Danbridge earlier because I'm a map dude, and that's actually a really interesting concept too. This town, kind of built in such an odd place. It reminds me of I got fortunate enough to visit London, and there's the Tower Bridge there. Has that kind of feel where there's like businesses and stuff built in that were old into the bridge. And just, I haven't gotten to read much about the history of it, but it makes me wonder, like, why did they decide to build on this bridge? You know,
Right.
And because it's taking up valuable transportation space, right? So that's the kind of stuff as a GM that I'm like, oh, how can I play with this? You know, it's really cool. I really like it.
Honestly, for some of this stuff, when we were in the, you know, the rough sketch phase of the outline and story, I just created some like really interesting concepts, environments, stuff that I wanted to write about, stuff that I wanted to embellish, and a bridge built on a town built on a giant bridge spanning a river. That was one of the early concepts that I thought the artwork would look fantastic.
Yeah.
It'd be a super fun setting, you know, for role playing, etc. And then I'm like, I'll make it make sense later. Like for now, we know this is going to be a thing, and yeah.
We did there's a similar town in GUI Cube in Zyranthia, which our team has been currently playing in on Tabletop Misfits, called Pendrugan, and that is literally laying over one of the largest rivers. And what that does, though, is it's also a funnel point. So, and currently there's talk of rebellion, and there's talk of secession, and all these different types of political changes. That's actually making it to the point where, well, what happens if that does happen? Because now you're going to lock entire areas of the continent completely null and void unless you do these long travels through, you know, dangerous lands and whatnot, because the river's kind of that main transport.
And Kevin, going back to what you were saying about this the mayor in particular, knowing the fact of how much power that town would have because it's situated on a bridge, and how much control the mayor would have over what goods get transported across. If there's opposing forces on each side or competing merchants on each side, that gives him even more of a sinister feel, because there's not, I guess not sinister, but just kind of sleazy, like you were saying. Like it's just like, how far is he willing to go to, you know, build wealth, or is he legitimately a good guy? I mean, he could be. He could just be trying to facilitate, right? It's really cool.
But he's got a ring on every single finger, so he's definitely
he doesn't
not
have
a good
rings
guy.
on his thumbs.
We can't tell. Can you tell?
One of his pinkies doesn't have a ring.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely all the factions involved are aware of how important taking Danbridge would be for total victory in what appears to be a coming civil war. So we haven't really talked too much about the overarching story or the setting, but you want me to get into that? I can break it down just a little.
Please do.
Yeah, let's bring up the map of Kiral. Is that how you?
Yeah.
Kiral.
Kiral.
So when I read that name, my first like thought in my head is that like a subtle reference to like Morrowind with Kyril, or is that just something, a name that you thought that sounded cool?
It's literally just a name I thought that sounded cool. Yeah. Naming things is very hard.
I consume way too much media of different nerdy fantasy things. I read too much and I watch too much TV. So I always see these weird.
So I did play Morrowind. I did not recall that name at all. Did I at least spell it differently? I hope. I don't know.
Yes, I think so. It's spelled different, and I'm not sure that Kyril and Skyrim is pronounced that way, but I think it is. But I was just curious if it was, you know, because we all would put references and stuff.
Well,
but it's a good name.
Yeah,
it is.
They say that, like, when you start writing, and I'm very much a novice at this, you know, but when you start writing, you write about the things that inspired you. So, you know, all writers steal, borrow, etc. from all the things around them, or all the things in pop culture, the things that they grew up with, etc. And hopefully, as I grow and develop as a writer, you know, you guys won't be able to recall so easily things that remind you of the things that I've come up with. But
it's never going to happen. I mean, even Alphinius, who's written so much, he had a contest a while back on the GUI Cube Discord that was like, how many references to other things can you find? There's a lot of Ed Greenwood. Just like I think that's good though. I think it's good that we kind of wear those inspirations on our sleeves.
Maybe put our own twist on them.
Yeah, but it makes it relatable too. If you see something, you're like, oh, I remember reading this, especially the more obscure it is. It feels really nice.
All right, so to break it down, we have our map of Kirill up here. So this was designed as it's our first campaign, first setting, adventure, Kepha Studios. This is our first project. So we tried to unsuccessfully limit the scope of this project. And instead we ended up with this huge elaborate thing. Looks like I'm buffering. I don't know if you guys are seeing that.
Yeah, we're buffering too.
Oh, okay. It's back.
It's just Twitch being Twitch. All right, so we have imagined this as a isolated continent that is surrounded by mountains on all sides, or some sort of impassable terrain off the map, right? So this is isolated land. The ocean to the south, the Sea of Stone, this is very rough waters and like big, dangerous rocks, all through that region. So that it's pretty much impassable for ships. So that's just our way of trapping the players in a strange, unknown land where they have no knowledge of the setting, the lore, the political environment or anything. So what we have is at the beginning of the story, a shipwreck strands all the player characters on the shore south of Danbridge. Okay, we have our story hooks basically create several different types of ships that you could have been traveling on when you were stranded. So depending on if you were a slave on a slaver ship, and when you got stranded, then there could be dangerous slavers that also survived roaming around in Kirill somewhere that you'll have to encounter later. If you were on a merchant vessel, then maybe there's some treasure that you've accumulated in your travels that you can reclaim and use to your advantage later. We also have like an explorer ship that maybe made some rare discovery, and there could be a powerful item that's fallen into someone's hands throughout the land. So depending on how the DM and the players decide to start the adventure, it will start to affect how things play out later on. So we just tried to, as limited as our story hook is.
Right.
We tried to create as much nuance and creativity there as we can, and also, of course, you're free to come up with your own story hooks to get your players. As long as you get your players in the land of Kirill, I think you'll be all right. So as they start exploring, they'll quickly discover that there are two illegitimate kings trying to take control of Kirill. And each of the 8 lords of Kirill, under normal circumstances, would form a council and choose one among them to be the new king. However, there's some serious wind blowing through my window right now. There's some serious divide amongst the lords of Kirill as a fiery new religion has taken hold in part of the land. So some of the lords of Kirill have converted to this religion, and they wish to hold up their champion as the future king of Kirill. The rest of the lords of Kirill are afraid of the influence of this religion. They see how it's affected, how it's completely changed certain regions of Kirill. And so they band together and try to crown the former king, when he died, tried to crown his son as the new king. So the way it works, each of the 8 lords of Kirill can pass down their lordship in any way that they choose, right? It can be just like father and son, just like medieval what am I thinking, like hierarchy,
right?
Or it could be some sort of like test of skill or will or strength. It could be some sort of public election. Any way that they choose to hand down their title of lord to one of their people, then all of the lords of Kirill come together to select a king among those lords, right? So now they're divided. Half support the champion of the faithful, and half support the fallen king's son, who's newly crowned king. So then we start having both of these sides playing off one another, and the players are not forced to take sides by any means. There's definitely a third route through this story, and it's probably the most true to the heart of the story way to get through. I don't want to spoil too much, but they will start to see how both sides are maybe not the best. What am I trying to say here?
Neither one of them are great options.
Yeah, neither one of them are great options. But if you start down one road, then it seems to start looking a little better, and the other side looks a little worse, right? So there's definitely three distinct routes that the players can take through this adventure. They can choose to side with the faithful and try to crown the champion of the faithful as the king of Kirill, or they can side with the lords of Kirill and their chosen king. And then the third route, there is a secret society of wizards known as the Scroll Keepers, who are infiltrating every level of politics and every area of the land that they can. They're also all wanted fugitives by both sides. And so this network of spies is trying to carefully weave a path towards peace for all the people of Kirill and reunite all of the lords of Kirill under the one true kingmaker that once resided over the land.
All right.
I know as a player what my instant instinct is just build like a badass gladiator and just have him go and challenge each one of these lords to like a trial by combat for their position, and then just get all of the positions.
I mean,
will own it all.
That's definitely a possibility. Like, it is written in such a way that any player could by force take the throne for themselves. There are some serious consequences to trying to do that. But yeah, I'm not sure how much I just like gush and spill my beans on everything, or
Hey, it captains the best of us. I'm telling you.
It's a great outline too. I feel it and instantly like, but I feel like it's a good idea. Man, I really hate to say this word, but it's a good example of like becoming radicalized, right? Like the further along down you get down this trail, either way, like the more you're like, yeah, this is not only is this right, this is the only way. Like it has to be this way. Nobody else can exist.
Right.
It doesn't think this way because they're obviously so wrong. How don't they see it?
That's great. That's a really good way of putting it. And also, since the further you lean on one side, the more the other side appears to be the enemy. In order to pull them away from that, we have our wizard faction, our spies, right, infiltrating every layer of both sides, so they can start trying to pull the characters away from the side that they've chosen. If that's something that the players want, if that's something that the dungeon masters want, those tools are there.
So if there's like a sympathetic character that's in the other camp that your party really falls in love with and they want, there is a way to go about getting them on the correct team. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there is necessarily, I mean, to me, in my heart, there's the most correct ending to the story.
Yeah, of course.
However, both Lana and Belden have the potential to become the new ruler of Kirill. They are both very sympathetic characters, and they both have a very sinister dark side that can be revealed depending on, which side, if the players try to take sides in that fashion. So sometimes the only difference between a hero and a villain is just having the right friends at the right time.
Yeah, it's perspective. It's and that's really cool that you're saying this, because James knows the full backstory of the character that I'm going to play in our new adventure. But it's very much, he's a paladin of pacifism, and basically his family was killed by evil forces very early on, and then he killed some good people in the name of the righteous good, and now he's realized that at the end of the day, it's just dead people. It doesn't matter what color they wore on their sleeve, what gods they prayed to. People are dying, and that's affecting everyone, regardless of who they are. And he's trying to just bring an end to it, bringing into that violence and that cycle of hatred. And that's really cool. And that, to me, that would be the proper way to end it, But man, that's a lot of politics, and a lot of people are going to be pissed off because the the power is going to be changing hands, right?
Yeah, and it's it's my job to try to weave these things together, like not in real life, but definitely in my mind, is one of those like To Catch a Serial Killer boards with all the strings, connecting everything.
The Pepe Silva board.
Yeah, and then there are certain areas. So, for example, Elder's Keep, which is in the bottom left corner of the map from here. Also, Deep Spire Lake, and there's one other area. So these are not so politically motivated areas. They're just trying to create something totally new and unique, and like a breath of fresh air in this setting. And my original goal was to hire some very talented and more experienced than myself authors to write up some of these chapters. So we do have JVC Perry has written up the Deep Spire Lake chapter for us, which is an underwater castle. The players have to figure out how to breathe underwater and explore this castle. And the Elder's Keep, I ended up writing myself. It was just a nice break from all the political stuff. I just got to do like some spooky haunted castle stuff.
Right.
So we are trying to. A lot of the areas on the map are connected politically, and the story drives you from like one to the next, or at least kind of branches off and gives you some options in each location. But there are a few special locations scattered throughout the map that are just like a break from it all.
Nice.
And that's pretty nice too, because a really heavy political game can get kind of draining sometimes. And it's nice to have a place to just go murder hobo for a bit. Sometimes just blow off that steam. Yeah. And I'm talking about as a GM, like sometimes your players just want to go kill indiscriminately, and it's nice to have a place to send them.
Yeah. And I told you about like my early childhood influence of Final Fantasy III, especially. There's a place in that game called the Veldt. Are you familiar?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, every type of random dangerous monster in the game roams the Veldt. And that was very much my inspiration for the Pale Plains here. So there's even in the book, there's an aside for the dungeon master that says like any reference books, anything that you have with cool monsters, like this is the time. This is like, let's get them all. Let's get your monsters.
Pick whatever you want to throw at them and just do it.
This is the time and the place. And then to balance that, you can see that giant dragon turtle shell in the middle of the plains. That's our monster hunting lodge. Which we also have a beautiful environment piece that you guys can show off if you want.
Yeah, do it.
Where's that one?
Do it.
Do you know which one we're looking for?
Root folder. Yeah, second row, fourth one. It's called Paildrenth Lodge, stamped.
Okay. Paildrenth Lodge.
I'm gonna have to go through this folder later and just look at all the images. I'm really excited to see this.
I don't know. I'm hoping we have a lot of people listening, and
I think
we have a lot of lurkers.
Twitch is broken right now. That sub counter is not right. I'm looking in mod view, and we have a lot more people than are showing up there.
Okay.
But, one thing I do like about this program is it's the kind of content I like. I like to listen. I like that.
Yeah. So this is one of our fun little aside areas. There are some very important reasons for the characters to come to the Paildrenth Lodge. However, the characters can also decide to just take a break and do some monster hunting in this area.
There you go.
They're
reminds
very
me like
much
the Safari Zone, and it's like the Safari Zone in Pokemon. You're just going into this area and just that's all you're doing.
There are some story elements, and I've tried to sprinkle in little bits from each faction in the area as well. But if the players want to, they can just take side quest notices off the notice board and just go monster hunting for rare ingredients for potions or whatever it is that that the dungeon master wants to set up for them. And we also have a very prestigious trophy wall in the lodge. So you want to try to find the biggest and baddest trophy that you can to to put up on the wall.
That actually,
Show
I would
off
be
stuff.
interested. I would be interested in as a DM of doing that like as a persistent thing throughout campaigns.
Yeah.
So like if I run a group through later, have the trophies that the other group had. But I got to be honest with you. One thing I really like about this, Kevin, is the I like the setting. You don't see a lot of grassland, savanna type settings in D&D. I don't feel, and I really like that vibe.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
What do you mean by
Try
that,
to.
Matt? Can you elaborate a little bit more?
So it's like if you look at the background there, you see a lot of the it almost looks like an African savanna a little bit with some of the
Right.
tree shapes and the tall
Mhm.
grass. And I feel like in the D&D settings and games that I've played, you don't experience that kind of terrain a lot. So it opens up like a new feeling. It would make monster
Mhm.
hunting to me make more sense, especially if you're hunting something big because you could spot it easier over distance.
Right.
I really like that because I like unique settings. I like unique, places to take players, and that's really cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah, definitely very much like African safari inspired. And yeah, I'm just very excited about some of the artwork and some of the other things that we have planned.
And
honestly,
one thing that we need to remember though, and I think this is more in a broad range of world building and D&D in general is yes, there's trees in forest areas, but even in the plains of anywhere, it's just flat or it's hilly, but there shouldn't be a lot of just hiding places for people if you're just traveling. It looks like specifically if you're traveling from Dambridge to Griston Keep until you hit the swamps, it should be a pretty easy run. Like it's just grass or ground and vice versa. And I really think that, but I like the fact that this Peldritch Lodge is kind of out in the middle of everything. So it's like that's where it takes over that entire savannah feel and the safari idea compared to the left hand or the western side of things, where it's much more forestry and it's kind of clumped up. This is where we're getting a lot of our resources and this is where we can do things, where to the other side it's a lot more rougher, I guess. So you could almost give that same feel, and I can see where your inspirations come from Final Fantasy, because this gives me that same feel of like, if I go this direction, I'm going to just be dealing with everything under the sun. If I go this direction, then I can actually just, follow the story and keep moving.
But
both let me start over here. Both branches from Dambridge lead to equal but very different perspectives of the main quest. So going to Griston Keep after Dambridge, right, and then moving your way up into the forest after the swamps, that can be very rewarding and also can be a bit of a slog with travel, etc. But there are a lot of hidden gems there in the muck, right?
And I'm not trying to downplay this in any way, shape, or form. I hope you didn't mean.
I understand what you're saying. It's just that the travel might be easier going the other way, but there are some real dangers, out on the plains. So it's like, do you want to deal with environmental dangers or do you want to deal with teeth and claws?
Exactly.
I just keep coming back to this picture because as a DM, I would spend half an hour, 45 minutes telling the story of how this lodge, where did this dragon turtle shell come from? Because I know a lot of my players are going to ask, what the hell happened with this dragon turtle? How did they get the shell? Did somebody kill it? Did it just die? And that to me would be I would make my players work for that information.
100%. You rolling some stuff or going to find people or
or earning
hunt
trust
down the oldest person and earn his trust.
I just really like stuff like that. And it tickles the part of my brain that really loves Monster Hunter as well, because I don't know what it is, but something about the architecture there, just I love all the the loose banners and just kind of the little awnings and stuff like that. That really tickles a weird part of my brain, and I like it a lot. I focus on weird details that a lot of times I don't think anybody else notices or cares about as much, but there's just stuff that entertains me and that I really like. And that banner above the door with a little insignia on it that I can't even tell what it is until I look closer at it. Like it's really I really like that.
Right.
In my campaign, I think that would be like maybe an ancient chieftain's shawl or something that they hung up there after he died as like a badge of honor. That kind of stuff I love.
Yeah. Now there is something in this picture that I just looked at, and now I'm petrified.
Oh, the thing in the back?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the dragon turtle's head.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that immediately.
So yeah, I'll leave that up to you guys to figure out what you think that is. But the brief that I sent the artist was that this was a dead dragon turtle and there was a monster filled plains, right? So
okay.
Yeah, he gave the impression that
the dragon turtle might not be fully dead. That's what it is giving me. It's like the sushi of dragon turtles,
zombie dragon turtle, maybe.
Some of the. Well, yeah, that's the guardian of the lodge. That's the reason why nobody comes to the lodge unless you come from the back end, because if you come to the front end, you could eat. Like it's kind of this feel I'm getting right now. But no, I really think these artworks that in your artist, definitely give them all the props for the stuff that they've done. Yeah. These are incredible artworks.
Yeah, I'll definitely pass it on. They're some of the most incredible people I've ever met.
It's really supporting your story. It's giving you've got a great overarching story, and then your artists are giving you the minutia that you need, like helping you evoke those emotions.
Sometimes it works in reverse as well, like the chalices that are on the border, the frame for the world map. Mm-hmm. I thought those were so well done and so inspiring that we wrote them into the story as magical artifacts. Awesome. So those are magic items that you can acquire.
Great. Hey, so can we bring up week 4 on the screen, please?
All those are good. Whatever you want to bring it up, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we're gonna bring up week 4 because I want to talk about this, because this is every week we've been doing a monster since the beginning of the year. And I thought the opportunity to do a monster that is being put in your book and kind of giving you some idea, some explanation, and giving some time to explain this a little bit would be great. And also you can share how many new monsters, how many new items are going to be in this book, because that's the thing as a GM that I'm always looking for. I'm like, okay, what new inspiration can I get? What new monster can I tweak slightly and give to my players? Because we've all been down that road, right? We've all been down the troll road. We've all been down the ogre road. We've all been down the gnolls and all these creatures that they know those things. But if there's a little tweak you can give them, now they're different. Now you're not expecting it. So this is what you called the Goblin Knight, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was going to let people vote on this one, but it seems that we're a little quiet tonight, and
I think Twitch is being funky. That's why we're losing.
Yeah, Twitch is being funky. So much. We're buffering, and I feel really bad because this has been a really good show, and I want you to realize that I'm hoping we're giving enough of a promo for this thing, because this is really an incredible setting.
I think it's going well. All right, so I've always loved goblins. I love when I paint goblins. I always paint them non-traditional colors. I like yellow goblins especially, but I've always been fascinated with how every setting, whether it be Chult, whether it be the Underdark, there's always some kind of goblins, right?
Right.
They figure out how to survive. They're very adaptable, and I think that's the thing about goblins that
like cockroaches.
I think it's not appreciated enough how well goblins can adapt to their environment and find a way to survive. I think in the D&D settings, even better than humans. So, for example, in Chult, you see the Batari goblins.
Yes.
They're very tribal. They do the stacked on top of each other, like
the totem pole,
totem pole combat, right? So they find ways to adapt to their environment and to survive, even surrounded by undead and dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So my inspiration for this is that these goblins are surrounded by all of these lords and their knights and their codes of honor and chivalry, which we definitely have to get into that, because every class can play a knight in this campaign.
Oh wow.
And so the goblins have learned to mimic the codes of chivalry of the knights without ever really mastering it, right? So sure, they can dress like fancy little knights, and they ride giant boars or spiders or whatever their chosen mount
but they're
might
still
be.
but they're still goblins.
Yeah, like if you challenge them to a duel for honor, right? They might accept. They might think that they're going to beat you, and they might throw dirt in your eye. So yeah, so they're just a little bit. They're just a little bit of a tainted version of the Corellian code of chivalry.
I like them. I like just boom goblin. I do want to get something. I do want to ask you something real quick, Kevin.
Sure.
You said you like painting goblins yellow. Is it because you like showing off that you're a good painter? Because yellow is so hard to paint.
Yellow is very hard to paint. Yeah, I do tend to pick challenging. Listen, I always bite off more than I can chew.
You're like is it because it's so hard to paint? Because
it is. If you've ever painted like yellow anything in a Warhammer army, if they look decent, you're a pretty damn good painter because it's so hard.
Oh yeah.
I know some tricks. But like everything that I do, I mean, this is my first full-fledged campaign setting. And did I start with a one shot? No, I started with a 350-page level 1 through 10 campaign setting in adventure. And it's the same with my competition pieces. It's always like, okay, I know I can do this really well. So for the contest, I'm going to do this much, right? And like one time I built an entire swamp diorama with a giant dragon-sized crocodile monster in it, and I'd never done any of those things before. I had no reason to believe that I could do it, but I did. Like, so I always tend to bite off a little more than I can chew, and then I try to grow into the task that I've set for myself.
I could talk to you about that kind of stuff forever. I won't, because we're here to talk about your book. But I love painters, and I love watching painters do like the draw random mini, and sometimes they're coated in like they're primed in snowflake texture, and they have to figure out how to make it work. I love that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
back to what we're talking about. So
okay, so one thing I wanted to get to, because you said like the banner with the logo on it that you couldn't quite make out, etc.
Right.
There are currently 8 different Lords of Kirill on the map, and each one has different heraldry, and they have a lot of different things going on, in their unique setting. The players can, at any time, choose to serve one of these lords, and as long as they earn that lord's trust with our loyalty system, so it's kind of a loose system. The loyalty is to either King X or King Y, right? And the lords that are loyal to that particular king. Mm-hmm. So as you become more loyal to the king, his lords will all trust you more. Okay. So once you gain a certain level of trust with the lord, then you'll be invited to make a pledge pledge yourself to their king. If you accept, then you gain even more trust. And once you cross certain thresholds, you can become knighted. Once you become knighted, then you'll be like dressed in all the heraldry of the lord that you're choosing to serve, right? And if your loyalty gets even higher, then you'll be summoned to the king himself, and you'll be granted a title, right? You'll become a noble yourself, and you'll be granted a old rundown castle. And then we have a mechanic where you have to like slowly rebuild this castle, which you could also, I mean, you could sink 6 months of a campaign and just trying to acquire all the resources to build your castle.
And I would totally do that, and James would be so pissed
100%.
off.
Oh no, I love it. I love that kind of
my partner on this project is my best friend Sammy, and he ran Waterdeep Dragon Heist for our home group, and we spent so much time rebuilding that tavern, naming it, coming up with customizations, etc. And I think he had some supplementary books to help like embellish the tavern building even more. So we're taking some inspiration from that, and we're like, okay, building a tavern was fun. I bet building a whole castle and keep would be, even more
Castles and Crusades, I think, is the one that Matt Colville wrote, that was very based off of how do you create a castle in a D&D setting.
I got to be honest, I would abandon story for that. If I'm real, once I would abandon story. If I knew that was a thing that could happen, like it would just be latch onto a lord and find a way to get a castle, and then make mega castle and just launch my crusade from there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Then
It's
well, that's because you just became a wargamer at that point. You're not playing D&D
That's
anymore.
really kind of what it is I just am always trying to find a way to build a
Well,
civilization.
yeah, there's a nice balancing act where as you become more loyal to the lords and kings of one faction, they will ask of you some more and more dangerous and sometimes questionable tasks, right? Like
Mhm.
they think you're loyal enough they can ask you to, you know, maybe do some really sinister stuff to the other side to try to help them gain control. And maybe your players are like, yeah, man, we'll do some dirt, you know, whatever we got to do.
Oh man, a
But
chaotic neutral would thrive so well in this world. Whatever you need, boss.
yeah, whatever you need, I'm your mate.
Yeah.
However, it can also, as they become more loyal to one side, help reinforce the fact that like, hey, maybe there is a better way, you know. And then when your players are starting to feel that a little bit of guilt, a little bit of doubt, that's when you can introduce, you know, our third faction, which is our I don't want to call them a peaceful faction because they're, you know, they're basically spies and they'll do whatever they have to do to achieve their goals as well. However, I think most people would agree that their goals are the most honorable of the factions. So then they can maybe try to get pulled back on course a little bit in that way. So in order to get all the way to the end of the story and take sides with one king or the other, you have to pretty much like you have to make some pretty bad decisions, you know, for your character and their morals and their honor.
Yeah.
You have to sacrifice your own honor to you know, to force one person or the other onto the throne. So to be a truly honorable
hello,
knight.
friends. Sorry to bother you, but or just cut you off there for a second, but we just got raided
Sure.
by 13 people from Smelly Catton 7. So
Hello.
welcome.
Hey, welcome.
But
Smelly Catton.
but yeah, that's an incredible system. I'm really excited about that. That's a really interesting thing because I really like the idea of digging in with a side and kind of following that down and seeing what that leads to, you know, and seeing what the kind of sacrifices, because that's realistic, right? You have to make these sacrifices at some level to get that kind of power.
Okay.
And that's
Right.
really powerful.
So I see you've got some more artwork up. This was the very first piece of art that we ever had designed for the campaign. So when Sammy and I started doing this, we decided right away, like, let's just commission some art so that we were spending some money and making it feel real to us, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
in order to, we wanted to have an investment, we wanted to have a commitment to the project, you know, a financial commitment. We're like, okay, once we start spending money, then we have to do the work, and you know, we have to chase our dream and make this thing happen. So we came up with the concept of this Dragon King and this Manticore King, which is what it was at the time. And when the artwork came back, the Manticore was breathing fire, and I was like, this is another one of those examples where I was like, hey, a Manticore that breathes fire is pretty badass, you know?
Oh yeah.
So then I started coming up with some lore reasons, which we have written into the story, some pretty good explanations for how some divine magical energy can influence a hunting manticore and turn him into our Ragnacore. So our Ragnacore is the size of a small dragon. Here I have the miniature.
Ooh.
Oh,
That's the mini from
look
early.
at
That's
that
so
thing. Look at
and
that.
he's got a little gullet pouch under his neck like a lizard, and it puffs up and he breathes fire.
Ooh.
And
I like that a lot. I love the
yeah.
wings.
Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't all the way sure about the texture of the wings. As a painter, I'm like, you know, it's great for tabletop, but also I want to hand paint all that texture in myself sometimes. So I think it's a great gaming model. I'm very happy with it. I'm very much in love with the design. So yeah, that's just another example of how we've allowed the artwork to, you know, influence the story, and we just follow the lead of, I mean, we hired some of the most amazing artists in the world to work on this project. So we're going to give them some creative freedom and see what they come up with and just embrace it to the best, you know, to the best of our ability. I found that
100%.
as we get further into the development of the story, that's when I have to say, okay, no, this has to change, you know, but,
Yeah.
but yeah, they've all been very accommodating. I mean, we've had so much as we noticed that on the cover of the book, the kings and their factions were on the wrong side of the book.
Oh no!
So that their banners were like facing, So then I was like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We just mirror image flip the world map. Then we just had to reverse the one logo on the cover of the book. Like we just made these changes as a team. Everybody came together.
There you go. That's how you do it.
It's all seamless and it all looks great. But
yes.
But I have made my fair share of mistakes as a rookie art director, and I've got a list of 100 things that I will not screw up next time. But that's all part of the process.
Yeah. No, this is a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing this thing come to life. And make sure, guys, I'm putting in the links right now. Go hit their Kickstarter, give them the notifier, if for no other reason than to help them get this out there.
That'd be great.
This might not be a campaign for you. I think it's an amazing campaign. I'm looking forward to trying to back it as well as I can with my own financials. But either way, I want to make sure that this is getting out there. And the more people that hit that notify button makes it more triggered to Kickstarter. And that's something that we really are promoting here, is these amazing creators and crafters and all that. And Kevin has already done all of that background work for us, getting his amazing artists and additional writers and all this stuff put together in the background. So this thing's going to launch, and it's going to launch hard. And I'm super excited for you, Kevin. I think this is going to be a awesome campaign.
So I do just have to, like, I have to bring this up. James, have you been on the Kickstarter site and seen the location of the company is in Greenfield, Indiana?
I have not noticed that.
So no, what's funny about that is the one shot we played Sunday, we were taken from the fantasy world we play into Greenfield, Indiana.
Yeah.
No way.
No joke. Like, what are the odds?
It's our the GM of the night was one of our players normally.
Yeah.
And he wanted to play this very
Metro. It was Metro.
Metro.
It was the video game
Metro. And
okay.
Yeah, so
we don't have subway stations in Greenfield, but
yeah, it was.
We didn't have subway stations there either. I mean, we ran literally into a supermarket.
Yeah, but it was like he used art from Metro, but we weren't in a subway station.
Yeah,
but it was really funny. We were in Greenfield, Indiana, and I think it's really funny. But the reason I was looking is this is definitely something I'm going to run at my home table. I think.
Well, thank you.
Because it's very much my vibe. I have a hard time with big overarching story. And I really like to focus on minutia, and I think this is going to be a great platform for me to do what I do best as a GM. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, so
I have to have Matt GM the campaign on stream.
If I could talk, I would love to. That'd be fantastic. So if I could just take it aside, we have quite a few viewers from the raid still.
Yeah.
For those of you who are just joining us or raided over, if you're still watching, make sure you refresh so that Tabletop Misfits gets credit for all those views. That would be really helpful.
Yes,
also,
thank you.
If you would, James, if you would drop the link for kefastudios.com/newsletter.
Oh yeah, we dropped that one too.
Anyone and everyone who signs up for our newsletter, you can download the first chapter of Banners of Honor right now. You can check it out, all the artwork, the beautiful layout. You can get a glimpse into the story and see what's going on. You will also, for those of you that have 3D printers or have a friend that has a 3D printer, we're giving away the 75 millimeter version of our blacksmith model for free.
Matt's like, so, I'm gonna have to print a couple of those.
Yeah.
So when you sign up for the newsletter, you will get an automated response. The automated response will include downloads for the chapter, the STL file with the model and the base. And it'll also have the link to the Kickstarter pre-launch page. So you can get all in one with that. Also, we email one time a week. We like to promote other small companies like ourselves who are also struggling to get the word out on their Kickstarters, etc. So we always try to promote other D&D related products. We'll never give your emails out or sell them or any shady shit like that. So yeah, I hope you'll take the time to check it out.
Have to get a little blurb on their newsletter for Tabletop Misfits.
I'm super interested in this project. I'm definitely
there's the cover.
Subscribed to the newsletter.
There's the cover. It's
so good.
It's so good.
Watching this thing come together was I mean, it was like the journey of a lifetime. So our cover artist, he, I think he spent 7 months on the cover, and some like every time I saw it, it was like it would go from like a blurry image of like you could see all the potential in the world of like what it's going to be,
Right.
and then when the next time you see it, it was like some of it was crystal clear, and then you're like, oh, he's really making progress, and then the next time you see it, there would be like way more blurry stuff, and then the next time it was like infinite detail went into this thing. I mean, for months,
Yeah.
and to the point
I
where I
mean,
was just
look at
like,
the amount of layers between the different creatures in the sky to the colorization above the banners of honor, all the way to the point where you're looking at like all of these factions that are just, and
and
knowing what digital art and how much layering has to go into this is obnoxious.
and I don't know
It's a
how much of it
lot.
you can see at this scale on the screen, but there's
Right.
actually like the architecture of the building itself
Is behind it. Yeah, it's a little
incredible.
hard to
I mean,
see in this scale.
oh man, I've got all the pencil sketches, like all the work in progress for all of the artwork. I keep it. I save it in a file on our um, Discord. It's called The Beautiful Process, and I share once the artist is paid and all squared away, then I share the final work, and then I share all the work in progress steps.
That they all that work to show people what has actually how much this took. Yeah, we had the opportunity right when we first launched the affordables, which is our 5e GUI cube setting campaign that we've been running now over a year. We had an artist out of England that did all of our artwork, but he would continually send the different steps, and it was so cool to watch it from, you know, just circles and squares to an outline to base color, and then all of a sudden there's full color and then shading, and I was like, goodness gracious, that's going to take a lot of time and energy. And
hey, is the wind picking up on my microphone? Because this sounds
a little bit.
I've got headphones on. It sounds like there's a tornado outside. So let me go.
Yeah, make sure you're safe.
Let's make sure that's not the case. I prefer not to be that person, having you stay around and then all of a sudden there's no, you're just gone. Like that would be scary. Not gonna lie.
If the stream cuts off, just know that my dying wish is that everyone backs this book. Okay,
so I'm just sitting here staring because there's part of me that I know this is probably not going to be there, but I'm just like hoping that there's like a third banner hidden in the background of the cover art of like the secret spy faction or
the secret spy faction.
Oh, so I could do you one even better. There's a wraparound cover and there's a spy on the back of the book that's
is there?
That's what it is.
That's what my thought was immediately. I'm so glad that that's in there. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if I had quick access to show you guys like the rough pencil sketch that I did on an envelope and sent, like, this is my idea for the cover, and he was like, I got you, and like what he came back with was infinitely different and way more impressive than what than what my original idea was. And I was just like, so he kept saying like, oh, if you give me more time, like I want to keep tightening things up. And I'm like, it's looking amazing. I trust you explicitly. Take all the time that you want. Until eventually I had to tell him like, okay, man, like I have to start promoting this book at some point. So like we have to find a good place to call it. Like it was already looking done for 3 months, you know. I was like, we have to start finding a place to say it's done. And he was like, okay, it could be done tomorrow. Like, no problem. So he just wanted to keep going in and adding more detail. And I mean, yeah, I don't know how long the process would have went on if I would have just let him keep going, but it kept getting better. So I kept giving him more time.
Artists are like that. Did you know that officially St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican was completed in 2009, something like that? So that building was technically being built for like 400 years. Artists can't help themselves. They want to tinker and make it better. You know, you're a painter.
He pulled up the full so we got the full up art now, and you could see that person sitting in the background.
There you go.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
That's awesome.
That's exactly what I wanted to see. I would have even been okay if he was even smaller. Like just something that just like I like that though a lot.
And that's another part of the artwork. So this was the full image that I was getting, before we cut off what was the cover of the book, etc. But
right.
At different points of the art, like the stained glass window had more of like a colored effect bleeding through, and then the next time I see it, it would be totally different. It's just incredible what these artists can do, and I'm in awe of their talent.
It sounds like you've got a great pairing between the story that you've written and the artwork. It seems like the styles really mesh, and it's going to be great. I can't wait to back it and get my copy because it really fits my GM style, and I think it will a lot of people who have a hard time with big plots, but they like having the freedom to do small stuff.
Yeah. So what we've done, we've created a giant sandbox and then a bunch of little sandboxes, right? So we have I think 18 different unique locations on the map. Each one of those is a small sandbox where the players can move around and do things in different, whatever order they want to accomplish things. Oh man, there are so many things we haven't even scratched the surface on yet. Each one of these locations has optional story events. So at the end of the chapter, there's you saw in the sample chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So there are certain events that only take place under certain conditions, right? So only if X, Y, and Z has happened, then this event will take place. And it's up to the dungeon master to figure out the best time and place to begin that narrative.
Right.
In some cases, in other cases, it's very much action choice driven on the player's part. So if they decide to steal a certain item, then it activates this side quest.
Right? Activates the event. Nice. So we're pushing in our hour and a half time frame, and I think there's a lot of stuff that we could continue to develop on.
For sure.
But what I want to do is a quick synopsis from top to bottom what you're getting in this Kickstarter for everybody listening, because we want to know that.
Okay, so we have both digital and physical copies of the book. It's going to be 350 pages approximately, full color, beautiful artwork, levels 1 through 10. All right. We also, as optional add-ons, we will have a Dungeon Master screen that has some pretty fantastic artwork, and we are working on the layout for what will be on the interior of the screen. Okay. But it's going to be your rules for honor and loyalty, your chivalric code,
some of those unique things that are dedicated to this setting.
Very much. And then you'll have some artwork on the inside too that we don't have yet. So we're working on the interior design, but very beautiful Game Master screen is an optional add-on. The other optional add-on is a set of STL miniatures. So we have the one that we're giving away for free for our promotional model, 75 millimeter. This is for the artists out there like me that just want to paint the prettiest model they can find. 75 millimeter is the way to go. All right. And then our gaming models, we have 5. And 5 STL files for an additional $15. So the screen's $15, the book is $30 for the digital, $60 for the hardback version of the book. And then the screen and miniature packs are optional add-ons. Okay.
Awesome.
So you get 5 miniatures in the base set, and then as stretch goals unlock more miniatures, you automatically get those miniatures at no additional cost. So there's a total of 25 additional miniatures planned. So for $15, you get all the models if we get all the stretch goals.
Oh, if you only get, even if they're only 5 minis, $3 a piece for minis that high quality is an amazing deal.
Oh yeah.
To be perfectly honest, I'm not trying to turn a profit on these miniatures. I just love minis, right? So that's my jam.
I was like, that's your jam, so why not?
I'm writing a D&D campaign. I want miniatures that match it. I want everyone to play with my toys, right? Until So yeah, that's the short version.
Man, I can't wait. We're definitely gonna. I'd definitely like to check back in as we get closer, because this is a really exciting project. I'm really pumped for this, and I think it'll be a great thing for the community. It's something that's unique, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, 100%. It's unique. It's different. It's got all these little extra pieces to it that you can not only use in this setting, but a lot of times factions are so difficult to come up with, like, what are the purposes of them, other than just you can get more information or you can get more connections. But to actually have a mechanic in there that builds with the faction is fantastic. And I think it's a very unique, especially, and then on top of it, you've got the castle mentality, which is great. I mean, for people like me who love castles and love that medieval lifestyle, to be able to be like, I want to build my entire kingdom. Sure, why not? Right. I think that's fantastic. So we're coming to our end, and this goes out to all the viewers watching it now and maybe in the VOD later on. If you're liking what we're doing, we're not asking anything crazy. Make sure you're hitting those follow buttons and those notification buttons. They help us continue to show that we're giving good products out and that we're supporting the community that loves us. And we want to, if you want to help any additionally, you can always subscribe to the channel. If you have Amazon Prime, you can do so for free. And then we also have a tip that sits on the front of our page that if you want to offer those extra donations to help us keep this stream running, helps our tech, helps us improve the quality that we're running, and bring in amazing guests like yourself and more to come.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. And also,
seriously,
for our normal listeners, please, if you haven't, go sign up at least for the newsletter from Kevin Studios and get a great art. And please go check out the Kickstarter. At least put it on notify. Check it out when it comes out to help boost awareness for something that could be really nice and refreshing for the community. And we're also going to put that link in the description on our YouTube video.
Yeah, it'll be everything. All this information will go up on our YouTube here in the next 48 hours or so, and that will, and then we'll get you that link out to place on your newsletter.
Yeah,
perfect. So, all right. Yeah, one other thing, we've got less than 1 week until Nord Games is our partner on this. I say partner. They are taking us under their wing for our first project, right? So they're kind of like our guardian on this project.
Yeah.
So they start a marketing campaign on our behalf next week. So they're going to treat this campaign as if it's their own product for the last month before it launches on Kickstarter.
Wow, that's awesome.
Kickstarter date is May 3rd. It's the day after my birthday, so I'm going to take every advantage of that I can. Anyone who comes to wish me a happy birthday is like, nope, check this out instead. And we've already signed contracts with BackerKit. BackerKit has seen the product. They've seen our Kickstarter promotional video, etc., and they think it's going to be a big deal, and they're on board 100%. And BackerKit doesn't talk to everybody who wants, their help. So the fact that they, before it's even launched, that they're on board and signed up, really gives me a lot of confidence that we're going to do well. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to say, is that we've got a lot of big things coming in the very near future. May 3rd is the big day for the launch. There's free miniatures. What else? Am I forgetting anything?
No, I think we went over as much as we possibly can in the hour and a half that we've had. I don't like to keep this show going too long because people just starts dragging out. But what we want to give people is the chance to talk about what they're doing and the creativeness that they've taken their time, energy, blood, sweat, and tears and put into these things. As a creator myself, Matt being as well, and a lot of the people that play on our show, we know what it takes. We know the hours and hours and hours of frustration and all sorts of emotions to get these things out and make them amazing and hearing that other people are going to play them is just that final piece. And we are looking forward to seeing this come.
I'm legitimately really excited, and I would like to do like maybe I'd hate to say do a one shot of this because I feel like this deserves to be like a campaign with the mechanics that it's got. But I would love to do something. Yeah, I would love to do something like this on stream one time. We'll talk about that one day when we need a break, James. I might run something like this because it would be a lot of fun.
Well, we've got chapter 1, so I mean, we could always do something for them. For the Kickstarter.
We've got a couple of other groups that are planning on doing that as well.
Right, yeah. We've done this thing before where if we'll promote it for the next probably 2 weeks because we'll be back to our show this week, and then next week we're supposed to have a little separate show as well. So maybe if we can get 10 subscribers within the next 2 weeks, then we'll launch we'll do that as our promo for this, and then we'll run the game. Sweet. So yeah, we'll figure out how to do that as long as Matt's willing to jump on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have a great time doing this.
So how many subs are you at now? So I can
9. We'll count that one. So
we'll count
9 more
yours is the
subs
first one. So we need 9 more subs to come in the next 2 weeks for us to to set this up.
And I think I have one of them. I think my prime is coming up soon. But yeah, please toss a follow because I would love to do this campaign. Next week I'll be out of town because I'm going to get my new puppy. But after that, I'm excited.
Thank you both. I think your entire team. I know you've got behind the scenes crew there working hard to keep the circuit boards working.
Yeah, we're swapping things crazy now. Our entire production has grown and we're super excited
and everything we do is going to change soon. There's going to be a lot of big changes coming.
But if you guys want to know more of the insides of what's happening, or you want to interact directly with the cast, or you just want to come hang out with an amazing community of people that love D&D, love tabletop miniature or RPGs, and you've got Matt that is in the channel all the time, you come hang out with us on our Discord.
Yeah, I'm always kicking around.
Yeah, and you can talk to Matt about Warhammer because
James, you need to play Warhammer. Everybody, it's a uniting nerd experience. But anyway,
we're gonna call this last call for the evening.
I just joined your Discord.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, we love it. So last call. Any last words, Matt?
Go to the Kickstarter. Go sign up for the newsletter. Pay attention to it because I'm telling you, this one is going to be really fun and it's going to be unique. It's going to be something different.
Awesome, guys. So until then, Tavern is closed. We will see you guys all next week. The next week's is a super special one that we just found out that I got the opportunity to look at. It's another Kickstarter, crazy enough. This one is completely designed around Tailspire. So if you've seen the crazy 3D, we have the special guest known as Demon Gund on Instagram. He's going to be coming on to talk with us, and we're going to show off some of his Kickstarter opportunities he's getting ready to launch.
I can't wait until that technology allows me to paint my minis and then scan them and upload them to Tailspire.
Oh, that seems fun.
You can do that in Hero Forge already. I don't know how to do it where I can literally just scan it, put it in. That'd be fantastic. Look forward to that.
Yeah, thank you for being here, Kevin.
And come hang out with us Sunday for our next episode of The Affordables, which will finish off our arc and we'll prepare for the next arc to launch here in the next couple weeks. So have a wonderful, wonderful week. And we'll see you guys Sunday. Bye.
Bye.